Well, it's time to cross over to Kisumu County, where the man, the genius in pronunciations, Willis, the word master, also known as Willis Ochieng, is on standby. Willis, it's great to see you this evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Betty. It's great for me also to see you looking cool and tough as usual.
Exactly. Couldn't have been said better. Willis, let's begin with our word on the street.
Exhaustion.
Exhaustion. Exhaustion. Exhaustion.
Exhaustion. Exhaustion. Exhaustion.
Exhaustion. Exhaustion. Exhaustion. Exhaustion. Exhaustion.
Exhaustion. Exhaustion. Exhaustion.
Exhaustion.
Extortion. Extortion.
Right, Willis, you've heard there, funny Kenyans trying to pronounce that difficult word. Is it exhaustion, exhaustion, exhaustion? Which is which, Willis?
Betty, this is a very tricky word. We say exhaust, exhaust. But then when we come to this word, we say exhaustion, exhaustion. Not all that I've heard about exhaustion. Just like we talk of combustion, not combustion and all that. Combustion, exhaustion.
All right, got it, Willis. Let's move on to the second word. We have a period of 10 years. Is it a decade or a decade?
That one has two acceptable pronunciations in standard English. We can say decade, decade. We can also say decade. So decade, decade, both are acceptable.
Ah, got it. So decade is also acceptable.
Yes. Acceptable.
Wow, okay, great. Moving on to the third word. Do we say my preference or my preference?
We say preference. The verb is prefer, but we don't say preference the way it is commonly said locally. We say preference, just like refer, reference or reference. Prefer, preference or preference.
Got it, Willis, got it. Moving on to another difficult word. This one especially, this one gives me problems. An expert in matters of taste, you know, like tasting wine. That word, connoisseur, let me not embarrass myself, Willis. How do we pronounce that one?
That is a word which is borrowed from French.
Yeah.
And in English, we say connoisseur. Connoisseur.
Okay. All right, got it. Connoisseur. Yes. I wouldn't have guessed it, Willis. Connoisseur. Okay, great.
I know.
Willis, let's move on to another word. It's a very common word, but two very different pronunciations. Do we say children or children? My children go to this school, or is it my children go to this school?
Betty, to be honest with you, I sometimes find myself a bit confused when I hear people talking of children or children. I don't know where they get that sound. The word is child, but the plural form is children. Children, not children, not children, Betty.
All right. Another basic one is, do you say secondary education, secondary school, or is it secondary?
Secondary, secondary.
Whoa.
Secondary education. Secondary education.
Wow, okay, so that's a surprise.
Yes.
Secondary, not even secondary.
I know.
Secondary, you say?
Yes, secondary education.
All right, secondary. I like that one. Moving on to another word. Do we say depot or depot? You know, when you mean like, you know, like a depot of, you know, soft drinks or something. Is it a depot or a depot?
You are talking about D-E-P-O-T?
Yes.
We say depot, depot. A beer depot. Not depot, not depot, not depot. It's depot.
Depot. All right, Willis, got it.
Yes.
Well, moving on to another word that is most times used by journalists. Do we say verbatim? How do we pronounce that word?
I know the very common mispronunciation locally is verbatim. Verbatim.
Yes.
To quote somebody verbatim.
Yes.
That is not the case. We say verbatim. Verbatim.
Wow.
Verbatim.
Okay.
So we have the primary stress on the second syllable, and then we say a or a. Batim or betim. Verbatim.
Verbatim. Got it, Willis. All right, let's move on to our feedback questions, and I have two. Last week, our guest anchor, the little 11-year-old Luca Berardi, asked me to ask you, do we say biscuits, biscuits, you know? He says that, you know, that one gives him a difficult time. How do we pronounce that one?
Betty, we say biscuits. Biscuits.
Biscuits.
Not biscuits, not biscuits. We say biscuits.
Okay.
And we also say mosquito, not mosquito.
Okay.
Masquerade, not masquerade. So we have to get some of these words or some of these pronunciations right.
Okay, Willis, got it. I'm sure Luca is happy with that. Let's move on to the Bible. And some members of my church were asking, do we say Elisha or Elijah? Are those the correct pronunciations?
Well, many people get confused when it comes to pronouncing some of the English names. Like what we see is Elisha. Some will say Elijah, but the correct pronunciation of that name is Elisha. Elisha. Just like Elijah. Elijah in English.
Okay.
We don't say Elijah. And Betty, you reminded me about one John Courier who also asked me whether we say Zacchaeus, 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 and all that for Zacchaeus. Anyway, we say Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus. Okay, we got it, Willis.
Yes.
Moving on to our surprise
Tricky
word.
names.
Okay, all right, got it. Moving on to our surprise word. Which one is it tonight, Willis?
Betty, this one will catch very many people unawares and maybe with a real surprise. We've had many people talking of meteorological department when we are talking matters weather, which is in fact confusing. When we talk of meteorological, that is a word that is derived from meteorology. That is the scientific study of measurement. It has nothing to do with weather forecasts. When we're talking of matters weather, we have meteorology. Meteorology. So the department is meteorological department. Meteorological, not meteorological.
Wow, that's a tongue twister.
There you are.
Meteorological.
There you are.
I have to say it slow, Willis. Meteorological department.
Yes.
Got it.
I know.
Willis, always a pleasure having you on the show, of course, teaching us those difficult pronunciations. Willis, the word master, thank you so much.